From the Looney Tunes studios of Lehigh Valley Public Media in Bethlehem, PA, it is time for a stinging episode of chemical-free horticultural hijinks you bet your garden. I'm your host, Mike McGrath. What presents a bigger danger to you and yours? A hornet's nest hanging on a tree, or a hole in the ground with bee-like creatures buzzing around? On today's show, we'll explain why Elmer Fudd is always wrong to break out the broom when a vacuum cleaner is clearly what's called for. Otherwise, it's a fabulous phone call show, cats and kittens. That's right, we will take that heaping helping of your telecommunicated questions, comments, tips, tricks, suggestions, and jarringly judicious justifications. So keep your eyes and/or ears right here, because it's all coming up faster than you doing the 30-yard dash with 1,000 stinging insects close behind, right after this. Support comes from Hot Bin Composters, designed to reduce waste and create compost within 30 to 90 days. More information at hotbincomposting-us.com. Welcome to You Bet Your Garden. From the studios of Lehigh Valley Public Media in Bethlehem, PA, I am your host, Mike McGrath, and we have a terrifying and informative question of the week for you. We're going to talk about the two different kind of hornets that might appear in your landscape. One is mostly seen in Warner Brothers cartoons, and if you don't act like Daffy Duck or Elmer Fudd, nothing bad will happen. The other is lesser known and much more dangerous. We'll tell you all about them after a bunch of your dangerous phone calls at 888-492-9444. 888-492-9444. Sean, welcome to You Bet Your Garden.
Hey, Mike. How you doing?
I am just Ducky. Thanks for asking, Sean. Ducky's getting a lot of attention now that he is fully vaccinated and doesn't have to wear his mask anymore. It was gouging against his bill, but he put up with it. Where is Sean?
I am in Nazareth, Pennsylvania.
Oh, my goodness. I know where Nazareth is. Home of the greatest guitar makers in all the world, Martin Guitar. Did you ever take their tour?
No. I'm not really a guitar guy.
Okay. Well, it's where you live. So it's like people in Philadelphia who have never seen the Liberty Bell. No, I live here, you know. All right. What can we do for Sean in Nazareth, PA?
Yeah, okay. So ever since I first heard of your show, I've sort of been crazy about it. And
thank you.
I've really gotten the gardening bug since. And the first issue that I seemed to read about was yellow leaves.
Right.
And I thought that it was a calcium deficiency. So, before I started doing anything crazy, I went to double check for my pepper plants.
Mm-hmm.
But then it said it was a magnesium deficiency.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have Epsom salt. I believe that that's a source of magnesium.
So is milk of magnesia, you know.
Well, yeah.
Okay, yellow leaves on your tomatoes?
No, my pepper plants.
Oh, your pepper plants.
Yes.
Boy, tomato plants are very sensitive to a lack of calcium in their soil. I've never seen the same thing with pepper plants. So let me ask you a couple of basic questions. Did you buy the plants or grow them yourself?
These plants we bought as relatively small plants.
Gotcha.
They were grown by someone else.
Okay.
It was a nursery.
And good. That's no problem with that. Takes pepper plants a long time with seed starting. So where do you have them now? Are they in containers, raised beds, or flat ground?
They're in containers right now.
Okay, good. What did you fill the containers with?
We took some of our backyard dirt, and we had some, I don't know if it was a soil-free mix or if it was like Miracle Grow type thing. We don't get Miracle Grow anymore because of what you said.
Okay. When you say soil-free mix. That's a catch-all term. It could also be called potting soil. It could also be called seed-starting soil. The important thing is it's free of garden soil, which can really just screw up the whole idea of growing in containers. One of the basic rules of container gardening is no garden soil. One of the best things you can do is get a couple of bags of organic potting soil and then get some compost or perfectly clean topsoil and some perlite. Mix that all up in the wheelbarrow and use that, and you'll never look back. When you introduce your native soil, that tends to be too heavy for the plants, and it can also convey all sorts of pathogens and stuff like that. So, how big are the plants? How big are the pots?
Okay, I would say the actual plants are 4 inches tall.
Pepper plants grow very slowly compared to tomatoes. It makes seed starting difficult until you realize you got to start your peppers on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, we're being invaded by our tomato plants now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they love this weather. How many
The
pots?
containers are about just 2, because the rest of our peppers are doing fine. It's just these 2 peppers.
Huh. And everything's in the same kind of soil?
Yeah, and as you were listening before, I think it is a potting soil.
Okay.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah. Uh, Sterile soil, soil-free mix, potting soil, seed-starting soil. The important thing there is it's naturally light, naturally loose. The organic ones now have natural fertilizers in them, like worm castings and stuff. Espoma, which I want to acknowledge, support the show financially. They have a great organic potting soil. It's one I use personally, and I buy it retail at my local independent garden center. So, are we talking hot peppers, sweet peppers?
Yeah, one is it was a special ghost pepper, and the other is the Trinidad Jalakia pepper.
Okay. And are the others in the other pots hot peppers?
We have a couple of cayenne and reapers, and then we also have some bell peppers.
Okay. And which are the 2 plants that are affected? The first 2 you named?
Yes.
Okay. These tropical peppers can be a little bit dicey to grow compared to peppers that are not as crazily hot as those 2. And of course, bell peppers are a little bit easier overall. How many leaves are yellow? Where are the yellow leaves?
I would say that all of them, and I guess, the plant in general just seems a little on the lighter side.
Okay. I would recommend taking them out of those pots. You can use that soil in your other gardens, wherever you want. Put it under shrubs, use it to help build a raised bed or something. And then I would go out and get an organic potting mix that specifies it contains natural nutrients, like, as I said, bird guano, worm casting, something like that, and just start over. I doubt that it is a lack of elemental food, because then you would see it across the board in your pepper plants. There's also the possibility that these things could have come to you already diseased. It happens every once in a while. But I would, how big are the pots? Are they 12-inch pots?
I would say about that. One is a little bigger than the other, but they're both, I think, at least 12 inches wide.
Okay. And high. That's the nice thing about pots, is when you say 12 inches, it's across and down. I would honestly recommend, if the leaves don't fall off, leave them on, put them up in fresh potting soil, and see if the condition reverses. Once you start getting down to feeding by what you think is nutrient deficiency, you got to look at the other plants that are in the same family. And these two are probably the most fragile because of the environment they come in and the intensity of the heat of the peppers. And it'll cost you one bag of premium organic potting soil. And if I'm wrong,
Okay.
call me back and call me a dummy. Okay?
Yeah. So just move them into new soil.
Yes, no garden
Or-
soil, just a good organic potting mix.
Okay.
Okay? All right, good luck to
Yep.
you. And again, if I'm wrong, call me back.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Two little bugs, little bugs, little bugs, little bugs, little bugs, little bugs. Two little bugs, little bugs, little bugs, little bugs, little bugs, little bugs. Two little bugs, little bugs, little bugs, little bugs, little bugs, little bugs. Two little bugs, little bugs, little bugs, little bugs, little bugs, little bugs. Little bug, little bug, little bug, little bug, little bug, little bug. One little bug, little bug, little bug, little bug, little bug, little bug. One little bug, little bug, little bug, little bug, little bug, little bug. One little bug, little bug, little bug, little bug, little bug, little bug.
Ron, welcome to You Bet Your Garden.
Well, thank you. Nice to be on with you.
Well, thank you, Ron. How are you doing?
Doing fine, thank you.
And where is Ron doing fine?
I live in Wilmington, Delaware.
Okay, very good. What can we do you for, sir?
Well, I've been having problems with my strawberry patch. I seem to have bugs of some kind. As soon as the berries start to ripen, why something starts eating at them. They don't seem to bother them until they start to ripen. And I did, at a suggestion, I did put out some trays, or not trays, but with beer, but thinking that maybe they were slugs, but they didn't seem to take to any of the trays that I had put out.
Okay, well that's
I didn't catch any slugs.
right. Well, that's a good process of elimination. What's the possibility that mice are able to access the strawberries?
They could access it, but I don't think so, because we have a outdoor cat, and she is pretty good about things like that, of keeping up with the fields around us.
Okay, great. Describe the damage to me.
Well, it would be like they would eat or peck at the end of the berry. Sometimes they would, up as much as the half of the berry itself would be eaten away when I would check the crop in the morning. The other concern I have is that the berries often, at this time anyway, seem to fall on, because of the weight of the berry on the vine or on the
plant,
tend to dip down onto the soil, and sometimes I think bugs get the strawberry at that point too.
It makes access much easier. Are you growing them in a container, flat ground, or a raised bed?
Flat ground.
Okay. I think you're working against yourself there. Protecting ripe strawberries can be very difficult compared to the other fruits. You know, raspberries grow at the top of canes.
Right.
Blueberries grow at the top of the plant. But the strawberries are just laying there. I mean, you might as well have a sign, "Eat at Joe's." And these are June berries, I'm presuming, or are they ever bearing?
Yes.
June berries.
June berry.
Okay. So what I'm going to suggest, if you can still find plants, I would get a nice container. You know, they do, the reason you see strawberry pots in garden centers is because it really keeps the fruit clean, and keeps pests off of them, no matter what the pest is. They have to go to work to get to them. So I would say get a nice big container and see if you can find some ever-bearing plants that are still around.
Okay.
And then you should get strawberries this year. But I think you got to stop growing them on the ground, especially if it's flat ground. You could try fencing around it, but that could be voles as well. I know you got a cat, but and if the damage is being done overnight, I'm shocked that it isn't slugs, but I believe you. But I think the answer is it's just a plant that doesn't do well growing on the ground because it's too attractive.
Okay.
So grow in a strawberry pot and other type of container, and I think you'll be able to eat your strawberries for a change.
Well, yeah, I don't mind sharing them, but it's when they get the majority of them, I get a little concerned.
Yeah. No, I don't share well. You know, I don't work and play well with other children, and I don't share.
Right.
All right,
okay,
man.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Well, it's time for me to take a little break and announce that I will make my first post-COVID appearance, live and in person at the Bayshore Center in Port Norris, New Jersey, which is about an hour and a half south of Philadelphia, on Saturday, August 28th at 3:30. But don't go looking for all the details at the events section of our website just yet, because we'll be right back with a hard look at hornets and more of your hornety phone calls. I'm Mike McGrath, and you're listening to You Bet Your Garden from Lehigh Valley Public Media in Bethlehem, PA.
Support for You Bet Your Garden is provided by the Espoma Company, offering a complete selection of natural organic plant foods and potting soils. More information about Espoma and the Espoma Natural Gardening Community can be found at espoma.com.
Support comes from Hot Bin Composters, designed to be compact, odor-free, and easy to use. They can help anybody get started composting. More information at hotbincomposting-us.com. Welcome back to another thrilling episode of You Bet Your Garden from the studios of Lehigh Valley Public Media in beautiful Bethlehem, PA. I'm your host, beautiful Mike McGrath. Coming up a little later in the show, it is hornet time. Forget about murder hornets, kids. They're not coming after you, and they're even failing to take root in the Pacific Northwest. They're not interested in you either. But there is a smaller, less known, but more dangerous hornet. It may be in your garden right now. We'll tell you all about it after a couple more of your fascinating phone calls at 888-492-9444. Carol, welcome to You Bet Your Garden.
Hi, Mike.
Hello, Carol.
How are
you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thanks for being had. Where are you?
I'm in Sudbury, Massachusetts.
Okay, we get a lot of calls from Sudbury. Is it something in the water there?
You have quite a following.
Apparently we do. All right, so what can we do for Carol in Sudbury?
Okay, well, I'm a longtime listener, and I've tried to improve the soil by getting tons of compost delivered from a local landscaping supply place.
Right.
So I had for a few years, like
Mm-hmm.
20 to 30 yards. I mean, it's been a lot. I put it everywhere,
Good.
my raised beds and all over the place. And then I find out about Asian jumping worms.
Oh.
And I asked a local woman who should know, and she said they were, they are in the area, carried by these landscapers who supply huge amounts of compost. So I believe I have them because, they're right at the surface. They make the soil, very kind of crumbly,
Mm-hmm.
and they're huge, and they jump. I mean, they make me jump 6 feet. When I'm trying to dig, it's like they're like small snakes almost.
Yeah,
Some
that's.
of them.
I have yet to experience them personally, but maybe that's because I have the ability and the help to make all my own compost. But I don't know
Well,
how.
I have 4 composters, but I don't get compost in the volume that I need.
Yeah. Well, it depends on how big your garden is too. But you've done nothing wrong. Now I wonder. In the past, I've always recommended that people get a sample of the compost they're going to buy and put it in 2 containers. One container, they should plant some seeds in it. The other container, they should leave empty. And if the seeds sprout and the seedlings look good, well, that means that there's no residual chemicals in the compost. If the empty one stays empty, that means there's no weed seeds. But I wonder if this also wouldn't be a giveaway to the presence of these invasive worms. Now, let's.
I wish I had done that.
Yeah, well, too soon old, too
I
late
know.
smart.
Exactly.
So, going back through the sordid history of earthworms, I'm still not sure I buy into this. But experts say that there were no earthworms left after the Little Ice Age retreated like 10,000 years ago, and that we were wormless until the Europeans came over and brought European earthworms in their potting soils and their potted plants and muddy boots and stuff. And that all of the earthworms in America today are non-native earthworms. And they claim that because they're non-native and they over-fertilize the soil, they're responsible for a changeover of plants in the wild. But that's always going to be happening, especially as the world gets smaller. The rate of change in our environment is going to be mind-boggling. There's no way to keep up with it. So if you had discovered these in your own compost or in a potted plant or something, you could do something about it. If it were only a small area, you could try to solarize it. But truth be told, and the kind of bulk that you're using, there would always be survivors and they would come back. Now, what does happen over time is these invasives kind of take over and they bully everything out of their way. But then nature finds kind of a compromise, a midpoint where everything can exist together. Now, we are watching the research to see if there's anything that can be done to slow these guys down. But, they're living in the soil. Anything you do would be put directly in the soil. So they are superior fertilizing creatures. They are putting more nutrients into the soil than the European earthworm. So they're not necessarily causing a problem, but they can scare the bejesus out of people, which, all I can say is you'll get used to it. But, this is nature. Nature is not static or Disney. It's constant change, and it's Darwin. at least they're not contaminating your soil. That would be a bad one.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, they're not, I don't see any plants dying.
Oh, no.
The only thing that I do notice is I guess they're, erosion. They cause erosion because they make the soil so crumbly at the top, and so it tends to wash away easier.
Huh. Well, I would say just plant more, keep that soil
Well, that's, I wondered.
place.
I thought I should just throw like regular. Now I'm just buying everything from Coast of Maine in the bag. But so I could put some Coast of Maine mulch over the top. They have a nice mulch with seaweed in it.
Oh, cool.
You know about that?
Yeah. Oh, they're a great company. They had sponsored the show for a couple of months in the spring, and we expect them to be back again next year. But I mean, I talk about them anyway because I really do like their products and their integrity. So, just keep the beds filled up. And, when I first heard about this, I thought the best answer here would be to set up a ticket booth in front of your garden and wear a ringmaster's hat and have people pay a quarter to come in and see the amazing ancient jumping worms.
They really are big. I mean, they're like small snakes. You're digging, and all of a sudden it's like right there. And
hey, you got a show. You got the makings of a show. All you need is the patter.
Okay.
Teach them to jump through little wormy hoops. I mean, possibilities are endless. Make lemonade.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Really
you take care.
It.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Carrie, welcome to You Bet Your Garden.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Carrie. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
I am just Ducky. Ducky is thrilled to be free of his mask these days and looking forward to a mask-free future. And
indeed.
Where is Carrie?
I'm in Halstead, Pennsylvania.
Oh, man. Where is that?
Exactly. It is about, do you know where Binghamton, New York is?
Yeah.
Okay, it's about maybe 20 miles south of there, just over the border into PA.
Oh, okay. Very good. Is there a traffic light?
Yeah, there actually is not. It's pretty rural.
Okay. Well, that can be nice. That's beautiful country up there.
Yeah, it's very nice.
All right.
Pretty.
What can we do for Carrie, who can always make a quick escape to New York?
Yes. Well, as you know, it has not stopped raining for, I think, 3 years, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
And while my garden is enjoying all the rain, it's my first year with like a pretty sizable garden, and I'm finding my pumpkins, my gourds, my squash a little bit, but mostly the pumpkins and the gourds are experiencing a lot of yellowing leaves and leaves with spots.
Mm-hmm.
Some people were saying powdery mildew, but I thought I had read that that's more of a dry condition. So I'm not really sure what I'm dealing with and how to combat it.
Yeah, and with powdery mildew, you have a mildewy-like powder on the plants. So I think we're talking basic stress. Now, how is the new growth, the new leaves that are coming out?
They look great.
Okay, good.
They're very happy.
So what I want you to do is pull off all your diseased leaves, so to speak, and just leave the new growth. First, because maybe the diseased-looking ones could be spreading disease, but more importantly, your garden is going to look a lot better, and people will be deceived into thinking you're good at this. Now, are you growing in raised beds or flat earth?
Flat earth.
Yeah, see, in a rainy situation, especially when we get too much moisture for too many years in a row, a flat earth garden really suffers. If my garden had been flat earth, I would have lost everything. during some of these monsoons that come through.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's been crazy. I've never seen it this rainy before. It's really, really a lot.
well, figure out how big a cubit is and start building that ark, right?
Yeah, I know. That's
So
been mentioned.
pull off all. How are you feeding the plants?
Well, I do. I've done some different things. I have rabbit manure, which has been really good, and also like the fish fertilizer. I've been using, kind of alternating with those.
Is it fish alone, or is it fish and seaweed?
It's the Alaska one. I'm not sure.
Okay, stop using that right away.
Okay.
I know it's one of the old original organic fertilizers. Heck, I used to use a ton of it. But there is a ton of chlorine in it. Perhaps,
oh my goodness.
Perhaps from the process that makes it into a fertilizer. And, I've been warning people not to use it. And it could certainly overstress plants that are already stressed by too much water. So I love the, do you make your own rabbit manure?
Well, we do. We raise rabbits, so we have like an abundance of manure, and it's really quite good. So, yeah, that's never a shortage.
It's well balanced and it's pelletized. It's not messy.
Right.
So continue to do that. You can't really overdo rabbit manure. It won't burn your plants or anything like that. So you're in good shape. Yep. Pull off the bad leaves. No more of that fish fertilizer. If you want to go in that direction, there are other companies that make mixtures of fish and seaweed that are not so affected. But if you look at the bottle, you'll even see the chlorine content listed. Which I never realized was a giveaway as to something being wrong, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, that's odd. I'm surprised they have that. I do have a question. Should I spray with like this baking soda, water, dish soap mixture? Somebody had suggested that. I haven't done that yet because I wasn't quite sure what that would do. Or
never spray anything unless you're certain of the problem. I think I think in this case it's all cultural. You can't stop the rain, but you can switch fertilizers. Obviously, don't add any water if you go through a dry spell. Just let the plants dry out for a change. And how many fruits are you allowing to form on each vine?
Well, for the pumpkins, there's maybe, I would say 3 or 4 per vine on the most. The gourds are a little different. They're going crazy. They're producing a lot of fruit. So I've snipped the main vine at like about 10 feet, and I'm letting the females go. But like it's running out of room. It's on a trellis actually.
Oh yeah.
And it's so pretty, but it's kind of getting like, I'm worried it's going to be too heavy if all those fruits start to actually grow.
It depends on the variety of pumpkin. But you have to realize when you plant pumpkins, you are giving up your garden to another power.
I know. It's crazy.
And that's going to be another advantage of getting rid of the discolored leaves, is it's going to let more airflow in there. At this point in the season, it's a good idea to pinch off any new flowers so that the fruits that you have develop. But allow new leaves to form because they'll feed the plant. And you got to look into building a couple of raised beds starting next year.
Okay. Yeah, we were planning it, and then the next thing you know, it was June, and it's like, oh my goodness. Time goes so quick.
Yeah, for me, it was July. Yeah. All right. So I think you're okay.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. Good luck.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Well, it's time for me to take a little break and remind everybody out there that this is the season of picking, and that string beans, as well as zucchini and other summer squash, taste best when they are picked very small. If you can see them, you can eat them. And picking early encourages the plants to keep producing. But don't go inspecting your harvest to be just yet, because we'll be right back with Hornets Good and Bad and more of your good and bad phone calls. I'm sometimes good Mike McGrath, and you're listening to You Bet Your Garden from the studios of Lehigh Valley Public Media in Bethlehem, PA.
Support for You Bet Your Garden is provided by the Espoma Company, offering a complete selection of natural organic plant foods and potting soils. More information about Espoma and the Espoma Natural Gardening Community can be found at espoma.com.
Welcome back to another thrilling episode of You Bet Your Garden from the studios of Lehigh Valley Public Media in Bethlehem, PA. I am your host, Mike McGrath, and we are in the stretch now, cats and kittens. In just a little bit, we will get to some very valuable information about the hornets that may be threatening your hacienda. But before that, a couple more of your fabulous phone calls at 888-492-9444. Steve, welcome to You Bet Your Garden.
Hello, I'm calling from Wethersfield, south of Hartford, Connecticut.
Oh, very good. Nice to hear from you, Steve. What can we do for you?
I'm wondering if it's too late to prune large shrubs.
Well, what kind of shrubs? Are they spring bloomers?
Well, beauty bush, azalea, mock orange, viburnum, red twig dogwood, and weigela.
Okay, so why do you feel the need to prune them?
Most of it's opportunity because I've got a gardener who's ready, and I've got the funds. And to some extent, they're shading over other plants.
Okay, well, those sound like bad reasons. Okay. Anytime it's convenient for you to do something, it's probably wrong for the plants. Yeah, really. I mean, I don't know what your relationship with the gardener or anything is. Maybe you can pay now and have them prune later. But the perfect time, as you know, to prune all these plants is after they bloom in the spring. And, then you can make sure they're not shading the other plants. And you'll get a good springtime show. We should appreciate what we get in the spring more. I mean, let's face it, is there a better cure for the month of March than azaleas and rhododendrons and spring bulbs coming up?
Is there a bad reason to prune them in the dead of winter or the end of winter?
Yes, because then you're going to remove the flower buds that are about to open. Now, if they are not spring bloomers, if they're summer bloomers, you can have them cut back now. This isn't the worst time of year, but don't cut anything back after, you say you're up in Connecticut. I would not prune anything back. I would not prune anything back after September 1st, because then you're starting. September. Because then you're starting to get into the fall season. And if you prune in the fall and it stimulates new growth, that new growth could be damaged by winter. So you can prune away now. I mean, even the spring bloomers, if you don't go crazy, the only thing that'll happen is you'll lose a couple of blooms. But, more I think about it, if the person is there, you can afford it. I would just really go gentle on spring bloomers. And no matter what, don't cut away or don't let them cut away more than 1/3 of the plant in any one pruning spell.
Yeah, that's been about my philosophy. Take it directly from the base, about 1/3.
Yes. Yeah, about a third of the plant. And that tends to make sure you open them up to airflow and remove the shade.
Yeah.
And then, should we get hit by a really dry spell afterwards, make sure the plants stay well watered.
Yes. Okay. In an earlier broadcast, can I ask another question?
Sure.
You talked about kitty litter.
Go ahead.
Okay. You said kitty litter is okay for compost as long as I remove the solids.
No. Kitty litter.
Okay.
Kitty litter is okay to pour down a groundhog hole to try to evict the groundhog. But under no circumstances does any kind of cat or dog waste go into the compost pile. I know it's...
Okay, so it's not just the chemical.
Oh, well, there's no chemicals really in kitty litter. It's just clay. Although there's some fancy ones out there made from other natural materials. So there's no chemicals in them. But the fecal matter of cats can contain parasites, even if the cat is an indoor cat all the time. And same for dog. Anything with soft paws is prone to picking up worms and other parasites. And I wish there were a better use for used kitty litter for those of us who don't have a groundhog hole to pour it down. And I invite anybody, I mean, you could use it for fill. I mean, you could line your landscape with it to try to keep away deer. But no, not in the compost.
That's a good point. Okay, very good. I needed to know that.
All right.
I guess that also, in terms of filling holes, I guess that's good for chipmunks and rabbits too, right?
Well, rabbits don't dig. American rabbits don't dig holes. I mean,
really?
That's Bugs Bunny is a fraud. He's actually a European hare that dig very deep and convoluted burrows. But American rabbits just sit on top of the grass. That's why you see their young unprotected so often. So they don't make holes. Chipmunks tend to live in rock walls and other things like that with little cavities. But big holes are generally groundhogs, and they need to be filled in, and you need to try to evict them.
Okay, because I really thought the 2 holes in the back of my garden were rabbit, but I'll look closer.
Well, fine.
So I'll dump the kitty litter.
Find a little girl in the neighborhood named Alice. Ask her to see if she can go down one of the holes, and then she'll come back with a story for you.
Very good.
All right, sir?
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, good luck to you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yep.
And now it is time for a hugely important question of the week. Hornet nests okay in a tree, but not in the ground. Kate writes, greetings from Clarksburg, Maryland to Mike and the You Bet Your Garden team. I have a tiny backyard where I grow in containers and a small raised bed that's framed with metal. It's 15 inches deep, 7 feet long, and 18 inches wide. Mostly filled with perennial herbs like thyme, marjoram, parsley, and oregano. In the last week to 10 days, I've noticed yellow, quote, bees coming up out of the soil under my oregano when I water. Not a swarm, but about 10 to 15 of them at a time. I think they are hornets, and I've attached some pictures to see if you agree. They're the best images I could get because, I'm pretty sure they're hornets. If they are hornets, what would be the best way to remove them without using chemicals? My preliminary internet search seemed to recommend the use of chemicals, and I'd rather throw everything out and start over than go that route. Thanks for all you do. Well, thank you, Kate, because this is the perfect time of year to warn people about the only, quote, bee-looking type of insect that they must be wary of, especially when those insects appear in or near a garden bed. That means, yes, you do unfortunately have, quote, hornets nesting under your herbs. I say unfortunately because underground hornet nests are populated by yellow jackets, the deadliest flying insects in the United States. Now remember, kids, All yellow jackets are hornets, but not all hornets are yellow jackets. Say that 3 times real fast. And this missive is doubly timely, as my fellow Channel 39 and WLVR person, Audacious Art from Accounting, all hail they who sign the checks, just called me at home with a similar but completely different question. Art's neighbor had just noticed a classic Warner Brothers cartoon Hornet's Nest in one of Art's shrubs and was worried that the inhabitants thereof posed a danger to the neighbor's children or maybe its grandchildren. Art wasn't sure which, but math leads me to believe it probably isn't both. Anyway, to illustrate the danger difference between these 2 types of hornets, Art mentioned that the nest hadn't been visible before the hedge was trimmed recently. Hello? Anybody home? If some jamoke trimming a shrub right next to a hornet's nest wasn't attacked, why worry about some kids playing, theoretically, a yard away? The answer is our attachment to childhood cartoons. Whether it's Donald Duck, Elmer Fudd, Tom and Jerry, or Sniffles the Mouse, the first sight of that football-shaped hive hanging in a tree is the cue for Elmer to get a broom, antagonize the otherwise gentle creatures, and get stung multiple times upside his head. Don't be like Elmer Fudd. Now there's a good t-shirt just waiting to be made. Leave that nest alone, and the bald-faced European hornets within will continue to dine on your caterpillar pests until frost, and then they'll expire. That nest will not be reused by new hornets the following season, making it a nifty show and tell item the following year. Kids can take the now deserted nest to class and cut it down the middle to expose the intricate architectural marvel that nature has created inside. Hey kids, if you do this, for best effect, assure everyone that any hornets left inside are long dead, and then add, at least I hope they are. Same for yellow jackets. As frost approaches, a new queen will leave the nest, leaving the males to fend for themselves, and we all know what that means, that they will quickly die. As with above-ground hornets, that nest likewise will not be reused the following season. But in July and August, it is buzzing with nasty, aggressive, mean-tempered, and not at all nice yellow jackets, which can and do number in the thousands at this time of year. Approach the nest and you will be attacked. The first string of attackers will inject you with a pheromone that incites the other occupants of the nest to pile on. Run, and they will chase you. Freeze, and they will sting you. Yes, you are screwed, blued, and tattooed. Once you get to safety, apply a meat tenderizer containing papain, made from the papaya fruit, to the stings to denature the venom. Works like a charm. If they chase you towards a grocery store, buy a whole papaya, cut it into sections, and rub the chunks on your stings. If you are, quote, allergic to bee stings, slam the EpiPen full of epinephrine that you're supposed to have with you at all times into your thigh, and then hightail it to the nearest emergency room or dock in a box. Do not hesitate. Depending on the number of stings, you could be in serious trouble. Deadly serious. But let's prevent that, shall we? Wait for a cold night and take an old canister vacuum or shop vac outside and plug it into a grounded outlet. As you approach your target, have a helper ready to spray any sleepy guards with Pam or similar spray-on cooking oil while you place the hose as close as possible to the entrance hole. But don't turn that machine on just yet. Wait till the morning and then hit the switch and watch with fascination as the aggressive creatures rise up out of the nest to attack this noisy invader, flying to their doom by the dozens. When no more yellow jackets appear, tape the hose shut tightly with duct tape and only then turn off the machine. Leave it bake in the sun for a few days and then dispose of the bodies. Well, that sure was some important advice for those of you with deadly holes in the ground now, wasn't it? If you would like to read this important information over at your leisure or your leisure, the question of the week appears in print at the Gardens Alive website. Just click the link for the question of the week at our website, which is still and will forever be YBYG.org. Gardens Alive supports the You Bet Your Garden question of the week, and you will always find the latest question of the week at the Gardens Alive website. Yikes, my producer is threatening to open my vacuum cleaner early if I don't get out of this studio. Ooh, we must be out of time. But you can call us anytime at 888-492-9444 or send us your email. You're tired, you're poor, you're wretched refuse teeming towards our garden shore. It's YBYG at WLVT.org. Please, please, please include your location. You'll find all of our contact information, plus answers to hundreds of your garden questions. Audio of this show, video of this show, audio and video of old shows, and links to our internationally renowned podcast. It's all at our website, youbetyourgarden.org. You Bet Your Garden is a half-hour public television show, an hour-long public radio show and podcast, all produced and delivered to you weekly by Lehigh Valley Public Media in Bethlehem, PA. Our radio show is distributed by PRX, the Public Radio Exchange. You Bet Your Garden was created by Mike McGrath. Mike McGrath was created when he was bitten by a werewolf with mange, so he didn't even get the cool hair. Ken Queter plays our theme song. Our Chief Content Officer is Yoni Greenbaum. Our Angel of the Airways is Christine Dempsey. Our engineer, cheerful Charlie Sarah, is on vacation. Our social media director is Amanda Norfleet. Please check out her fine work and send us your pretty pictures at the You Bet Your Garden Facebook page. Our peerless princess of profound production is Tavia Minnick. Our audio editor is the lovely Jonas Bowen. Our video editor is judicious Jake Boyer. Our harassed and harried director is Javier Diaz, who is also on vacation. We are somewhat assisted by the usual gang of idiots, which would include Eric Werner, but he's on vacation. I know Zach the Tack is here, the other Jake, and whoever else is hanging around out there. Our fearless leader and CEO Tim Fallon is busy practicing for being late for real meetings instead of Zoom ones. I'm your host, Mike McGrath, and I'm busy harvesting green beans and beet greens. Hey, that's 6 times real fast, kids. I'm admiring my big green tomatoes, waiting for them to turn red, and this year's fabulous garlic harvest, while avoiding ticks, mosquitoes, and late-night TV ads, at least until I see you again next week. Yeah. Some experts feel that the numbers of migrating monarch butterflies couldn't be better. Others say the numbers couldn't be worse. I'm Mike McGrath, and on the next You Bet Your Garden, we'll discuss why this wide divide and how you can help keep those magnificent butterflies hale and hardy, plus your hale and hardy phone calls.